Yo everyone, hope you're doing great. I definitely am, because I just won my first Nexus Nights, unsurprisingly, on Kaisa. Pretty small tournament, 8 people, 3 rounds, but some relatively strong players from other card games, so still definitely quite a lot I've learned during this first Nexus Nights, and I want to talk to you about it, show you guys the deck, talk about the matchups and things I've learned. So let's get right into it. Alright, so let's get the obvious out of the way. We have our legend, one of the best legends in the game, just allows you to play so much more efficiently and allows this deck to be so incredibly flexible, because generally it's more of a tempo strategy that tries to use this adding 1 power of any color of this legend just to be more efficient than your opponent and out tempo them in the long term, get to 6 points and then end the game with one of your big finishers by conquering both battlefields. That's the general game plan, but saving these resources means that unless you're playing against like a ramp deck, you will oftentimes be on higher rune counts than your opponents. The deck also packs a lot of card draw, meaning that in certain matchups it's definitely viable to just outlast them, run them out of resources and win the game that way, which is one of the reasons why Kaisa is so powerful. Like, the main tempo game plan is really oppressive, and just the flexibility she offers on top of it for backup game plans, things like that, is really powerful. Then for the battlefields, I played Dreaming Tree. This is your game 1 battlefield. You throw this down every time game 1, giving you a lot of strong, just giving you really strong card draw with a lot of your cards, and we're going to talk about which these are. But oftentimes after the Dreaming Tree is out, you do tend to cut down on these when siding, so keep that in mind. But really strong generic battlefield, which if your deck is built for that, it's just really good in every matchup, whether you're going first or second. Obviously there are matchups that do enjoy this as well, but the way we build our deck, we are definitely one of the decks that likes this the most, and then we can adapt later on. Next up, Taiwan's Peak. This spot is a little bit flexible. You can also run like the star-tipped peak to ready a rune if you're holding there. Willow's Grove, I think it's called, is the same thing with drawing. Like, those are pretty good battlefields for Kaisa as well. Reason being is that, well, you yourself are not that good at holding. It usually happens once or twice in the beginning, and you're really good at, because you're good at conquering and removal, you're really good at denying your opponent the hold, meaning that if you just get 1 or 2 procs out of them and your opponent gets nothing, that's already quite the big advantage. The reason I did not choose to run any of those is because I don't already have all of the top end, meaning that particularly with Startip Peak, ramping into your game finishes is a little bit worse, and with the Grove, the extra card draw for now felt not particularly necessary in the variant I play right now. But again, that as well, with the more top-end heavy lists, you may need a little bit more card draw to unbrick yourself. Maybe that helps, although at that point it's probably difficult holding. I don't know, I'm not quite sold on Grove yet. Once all the cards are there, I'll definitely have to try it out. But Start to Peak to me definitely makes sense if you have all that top end, the Time Warps, the Rains, all the Watchers. Right now I don't, so I think Targon's Peak is superior. Just readying 2 runes at the end of your turn for all your strong interaction spells is definitely very powerful. And the battlefield we choose if we can go first. If we can choose, we always go first. So if we lose game 1, this is the one we bring out next, or like if we lose game 2, this is the one for last game. If we choose who gets to start, we take this and we go first. And then lastly I have reverse row, and reverse row is something that the recent winning lists from nationals and things like that also do not play. They play again the Grove instead, which I'm not quite sold on. I think reverse row is just one of the most powerful battlefields for Kaisa, and one of the biggest advantages of this is that like this is really good if you go second, but it's also pretty good if you go first. So whenever your opponent chooses, most opponents will choose to go first, but even if they don't, just if they choose throwing out reverse row, you're happy either way. And it obviously, when you defend here, you can move a friendly unit to base. This combos really well with your chosen champion to keep it alive, to keep it around, which is very, very powerful. So I really like this battlefield, and personally I'm hesitant to cut it. We have to see. I'll definitely try the Grove as well. And the start, again, the starter peaked. I'm pretty sold on the Grove, not yet, but I'll have to try it out. Then quickly get it out of the way. We play 7 red and only 5 blue. Pretty perfect ratio. We do have like some, like you do want to see some blue runes in the mid to late game, so definitely do not cut down on these too much, but the red runes are the important ones. That said, it does not matter that much oftentimes because our legend offsets that anyways. If we see too many blue runes, we can just try to use the legend to save on red and vice versa. Although, since she only works for spells, most of her spells are red. It does not work out that way always, but she's pretty good at keeping us the right runes around. And then get into the main deck. We obviously have our chosen champion, Kaisa Survivor, just one of the best champion units we have right now. 4 energy for 4 might is just a good ratio, just pretty strong. The additional option to accelerate her makes it really scary. Like having accelerate on a chosen champion is something your opponent needs to be constantly wary of. It's really, really powerful, and this is not any accelerate champion. If this conquers, if there's ever an open battlefield and we can accelerate this into it, you draw a card, keep your resources up. Like, it's just so strong tempo wise and resource wise that it's all around an insane card. And since our legend helps us so much offsetting power costs, we can definitely afford to spend the 1 power on this quite regularly, at least in this list. Obviously, the more of the top end you play, the more careful you have to be with managing your power, but we'll get into that. The ratio of this is quite flexible. You definitely want the 1 as a chosen champion, obviously, but aside from that, you can play 1, you can play 2, you can play 3. It all makes, they all make sense. Personally, right now, I chose to play the 1 due to the price, obviously, but honestly, so far, I have not missed additional copies of this. So maybe 1 is just good. I've seen a lot of people play 2, have like 1 backup, but there are other backup options for this, which we'll get right into. So first up, for the 1 energy cards, we have Triple Cleave. This is really strong when we're going first, when we're pushing for battlefields. Like I said, we're already bad at holding, so usually we do want to just push for a battlefield, conquer it, maybe hold it for 1 turn, and if our unit's still around, we just recall it and try to conquer again next turn. That's what we usually do. So for conquering, the Assault 3, just 3 additional might is really strong. Combos well with Darius, things like that. Really strong card, but this is one of the cards that you tend to side out post Dreaming Tree. Like, obviously pushing a unit to a battlefield, cleaving it, drawing a card for Dreaming Tree, then conquering it is really powerful. But after that, this card becomes a little bit worse. It's probably better going first, but definitely pretty weak when you run reverse row. So for a reverse row game, I typically side all of them out if I have enough stuff in the side deck, and otherwise, again, just after Dreaming Trees, siding 2 or 3 out is usually the right call. Then we have Hextech Ray, just pretty solid battlefield removal. Typically, when you can kill something with this, you want to do it. You have so much removal, you just need to take opportunities to find targets for them sometimes, particularly for units at battlefields. So in many matchups, if you can take something with this, just do it. Yeah, overall great card. Comes out in certain matchups, like against Aurora decks, for example. I don't find this card to be that good. Like, yes, it can help removing the first threat, but it's pretty dead in the hand for quite a long time, so not the best card there. Then we have Stupefy, 3 copies. This card is crazy. Just a -1 combat trick that cycles itself, no power cost. Really strong card, but again, at the Dreaming Tree, you can just use this on your own unit, draw 2 for 1 energy, which is incredible. Like, if you start, play a 2-drop, next turn move it there, play maybe another 2-drop and draw 2 with Stupefy, obviously draw first. If I maybe draw into the 2-drop, you need to play really strong. Depending on the matchup, this can also come out post Dreaming Tree, but usually I tend to keep it in. Like, the opportunity cost of still having this card in your deck is just so low, because with the draw, worst case you cycle it, and it's pretty likely that at some point you have an energy over. It also combos so well with our removal. 4 and 5 is a pretty big breakpoint against our deck, 7 as well, and just removing that 1 might can oftentimes make your removal lineup so much better. Just super versatile card. Would not play anything less than 3. Again, like I said, maybe in some matchups you want to side 1 or 2 of these out, but personally I've not found myself do that yet. And then for the last 1 energy cards, I have 2 Retreat. This is something that I might bump up to 3, because this is the card that replaces the additional copies of Kaisa Survivor, and personally I like this more than additional copies of Kaisa Survivor, in theory at least, because it's just more versatile. It's less good on its own, but it will be super rare that this is on its own. Again, it's one of those cards that's really powerful when Dreaming Tree is out. Drawing 1, it also ramps you back up, which actually is a pretty good side effect, and yeah, allows you to protect, like if you committed your Kaisa to a battlefield, allows you to protect her there, return her to the hand, which is not that great in tempo, but with an accelerate unit like Kaisa, that's fine. Protecting a Darius can be good. Even like bouncing a Yordle can sometimes be fine. Or in the late game, if you play your Watcher, try to push for game and it doesn't quite work out, just retreat it, try again next turn. Also pretty strong, so very versatile card. Thinking about playing a 3rd copy, just couldn't find the space right now, and it will only get more difficult the more of my cards arrive, so I have to see. But definitely recommend to play at least 2 copies of it. Sometimes post-growth I side 1 of these out, because in certain matchups where you don't have a lot of time, these aren't that good. They are really good in the mirror match in some other matchups, but against like Aurora decks or things like that where you really want to keep your foot on the pedal, these aren't that great, so they can come out there. Maybe side out another 1 post growth, depending on, it's not always only about is this card good or not, it's also how much better or worse other cards I could put in my side deck, right? So that's for the 1-drops. Pretty solid utility lineup we got there already, but now in the 2-drops is where it gets juicy, and we start with 3 Falling Star. Honestly, one of the best cards in this deck, one of the best cards in the game, probably, specifically in this deck. Usually the 2 power cost on this is quite hefty, but with our legend we usually only spend 1 power on this, and at that point this is completely ridiculous. It's just so incredibly flexible. Remove 2 smaller units, remove a bigger unit. And the crazy thing about this is not battlefield only. This can hit anything anywhere, and that's what makes this card and the Kaiser deck so oppressive. This is the only spell I would usually try to mulligan for, honestly, depending on the matchup, but we'll be talking about the mulligan later on. So really, really powerful card. Definitely play 3, and luckily it's not that expensive, but still definitely worth it. And then for 2 drops, we finally get into some units. We have Ravenbloom Student, really powerful 2-drop that combos really well with our spell heavy deck. Just don't be baited by this. At first glance, this getting stronger every time we cast a spell until the end of the turn seems like a unit we'd really like to protect, we would want to invest a lot of things into, and sometimes that can be true. Usually from my experience it's not. It's still a 2-drop like any other. It's really powerful at pushing. If we have like a Falling Star or an Assault or something like that, it's really, really strong at conquering. But since we are just generally not that good at holding, at protecting our units once they are committed to a battlefield, it's oftentimes just not efficient enough to protect a card like this, and that's what our deck is about. It's about just being more efficient than your opponent and snowballing the game that way, so keep that in mind. Which is also why this is honestly the better 2-drop of the two. When first looking at the deck, you don't think like it that way, but at least when you're going first, this is the best card. You just always keep it when going first, at least the 1 copy. It gets like, whereas Ravenbloom is still pretty good in the slightly later turns of the game, this falls off pretty quickly. But if you play this turn 1, the size of the unit doesn't really matter, and usually it will conquer anyways, independent of the size. And then holding, again, we're not good at protecting our units, so that might be difficult anyways. So at that point, why not just sacrifice the unit and draw a card? The other benefit of this is if you push this to a battlefield, particularly in like the mirror match, your opponent will really not like removing this, right? Like hextagraying this or something feels really bad, puts your opponent in awkward situations, and again just replaces itself, keeps your card advantage high, and just the best 2-drop to start the game with. Next, I chose to run a couple more 2-drops. 2 Party Poro and 1 Legion Rearguard. I wanted to try both to see how they feel, and they both have their merit, they both have their use cases. The standard lineup for this is like 7 to 9 2-drops. Again, if you're starting, it's really important to have 1 for your first turn, but also for the follow-up turn, having an additional 2-drop with a Noxus Hopeful or Falling Star, or just developing 2 additional 2-drops is really strong. What am I talking about? Falling Star on your second turn, obviously, when you're going first, will oftentimes not be that good, except like in the Victor matchup. Most decks just don't run out 2 units by that point, but still, the first 2 turns you usually want to develop a 2-drop on the first turn, then 2 more units on the second turn and play around those. So seeing a lot of 2-drops is pretty important. And since, again, I did not have all of my top end, I just wanted to make sure that my early game is as consistent as possible. I don't have as much stuff in the deck to bail me out later on if that didn't work out, so I felt like that was really, really important, and I chose to play 9. Again, standard lineup is 7 to 8 probably, and I don't know, I'm not really seeing myself actually cutting 2 of these. I might just play, for the other cards I might just cut 1 of these. Not quite sure which one yet. Both felt pretty great, you can't really go wrong either way, but just kind of depends on the matchup. Maybe 1-1 is the call actually. Definitely both good cards, can play either, and again, 9 2-drops make this deck just very consistently open 1. Then I have one last 2-drop, Smokescreen. I wanted to try this, which is why I threw it in mainly. The thing with this card is that it's really good in almost every matchup except the mirror match, and with the mirror match being the most common, it feels a little bit awkward, but aside from that, it's really good into hold decks. It pairs well into big minions with your removal, so in the mirror this comes out, but stays in most other matchups, and felt pretty good that way. Might be one of those cards that I'd consider just putting 2 copies into the side deck instead of maining one, but generally pretty strong card. For 3-drops we have our Lecturing Yordle. Similar to the Sentry, it's just a good starting unit that replaces itself. This is the best card to have when you're going second. Can immediately play it, cycle, and then again push a battlefield and be fine to sacrifice this as well. Just all around pretty strong card. The tank keyword can come up. It's not that common, but can definitely help. And then lastly, for the 3-drops, I have 2 Void Seekers. This card is kind of weird. It reads really crazy, and it's definitely a really good card. But in practice, it's sometimes more awkward than you would imagine. I found myself actually just cycling it 1 or 2 times. For like not a too crazy trade, things like that, and it's pretty good for the versatility. Here I feel like I've had like the problem with for this sometimes was just that Falling Star is so much better than our only 4-drop, which is not really a 4-drop in Noxus Hopeful. Really insane tempo play. Again, if you're going first, play a 2-drop on 1, then on your second turn use your 4 energy to play another 2-drop plus this is insane tempo wise. It's really crazy, and yeah, not a lot else to say about this card. 4 is a pretty important, like a pretty good stat line to have, to be awkward for Falling Star, awkward for Hextech Ray, which is another thing that would make Void Seeker pretty good, right? We'll have to see. Also the deck becomes pretty tight, which again is another reason to maybe cut it down on Void Seekers, but I'll have to see. But Noxus Hopeful, definitely a 3-off. Then we are starting to get into the top and the finishers a little bit, which starts off with Darius Tribarian, and this is a phenomenal card. 5 energy, 1 power, 5 might. When you play a second card in a turn, give me +2 might and ready me. So it's pseudo accelerate. It's not really a 5-drop because you need to combine it with other cards. Usually it comes down on like 6 energy, 7 energy with like a cleave, with together with a Falling Star is really powerful. Just insane at retaking battlefields, and this can be one of your pushes to finish the game. Like I said, once you get to 6 points, you're really looking to conquer both battlefields, and if you have like 1 or 2 units left in base, play this plus a Falling Star. That can definitely work out, but this is right on the line where sometimes you just need to use this to actually get to 6 points. This is somewhat in between there, but definitely insanely powerful card. Then I played 3 Watcher. At first I started out with only 2, but quickly realized why you want 3, because this is your premier finisher. This and Falling Star are probably the best cards in your deck, and our Chosen Champion, like that, those are the 3 best cards in your deck, and this card is just completely ridiculous. First of all, it's 7 might, which again is a pretty good breakpoint in the mirror match, but it also has accelerate and reduces all your opposing units by 3 might to a minimum of 1. So once this gets down, unless your opponent has like an obscene amount of stuff at a battlefield, this takes one, and like 1 or 2 units you still have in base can reasonably take the other, especially again if you can combine this still with like a cleave with the falling star removal, whatever, hextech ray, really powerful finisher. And of this you definitely want 3, because sometimes you get into awkward spots where you are in like a very aggressive matchup, already draw 1, kind of have to mulligan it to find something playable, and then just having 1 in your deck, most likely not seeing it anymore during the game, feels really bad. So you do want 3, and there are matchups where you keep it. There are matchups that if you already have like a good turn 1 play, maybe some utility, there definitely are matchups where you want to keep 1 of these. So a very strong card, probably the best blue card. And then last card I played was the one Catherine Rain. I have 1v1 game, another pretty powerful finisher, but also can work as a stabilizer. Yeah, just really powerful. Helps a lot in matchups like Victor that go really wide, but is also just super flexible. Can help against Mundo, which is one of the biggest problems of the deck, like removing gigantic minions is definitely the weakness of the deck. For 1 or 2 that can work, but especially when we're talking about Mundo, just removing 1 is difficult, and a Catherine Rain is kind of what can make it in any way feasible. And again, just a similar to Watcher, just removing a lot of stuff to open up the battlefields, be able to conquer there, or just wiping your opponent's board to try and get back into the game, depending on how things went. Really powerful card, and I'm looking forward to put the second one into my list once it arrives. And then before talking about the changes that are coming up, let's quickly talk about the side deck. I played 2 Thermal Beam. For everyone unaware, this is what helps you against the Aurora decks, which is probably like one of, if not your worst matchup. Really important there. Usually I would play 3, but since it's locals and I haven't been there before, I didn't know how many like of the top decks there were. There actually is 1 D player and 1 F Aurora player apparently, which just were not there today. So unsurprisingly, pretty unsurprising that Kaisa won. The set player also wasn't there. But yeah, again, with none of the Aurora players being there, this didn't come in. But usually for bigger events, depending on the read how common Aurora currently is, this could definitely be a 3-off in the side deck. Then I have 2 Sprite Mothers. This is just a really good card that I would actually like to fit into the main deck, but I couldn't. Reason, like, the deck is just a little bit too tight, and game 1, again, with being on the Dreaming Tree, I just preferred other cards, but usually post Dreaming Tree, this comes in almost always, kind of, for like some cleaves or whatever. Really powerful card, really good going first as like a turn 2 play. Just push for 1 battlefield, conquer that, have a 3 might body left for the next turns. Just a really powerful card, probably the best real 4-drop in the game if we do not count Noxus Hopeful. And yeah, is strong against slower decks by helping you to conquer, by giving you just more stats to play around, but can also be pretty strong against aggressive decks, being able to run just the 3 temporary into one of their minions, and they don't really want to remove it because you're fine either way, whether you conquer the battlefield or you just trade. it's good for you either way. So really good card. Then the second smoke screen, again, it's really bad in the mirror, but it's really good in almost every other matchup, so this comes in there. Definitely liked having the second copy. Then a third Void Seeker, which I also sided in for the mirror to out the Noxus Hopefuls, to cleanly out the Chosen Champion. Really good there, pretty good against other aggressive matchups, but yeah, like I said, can sometimes be a little bit awkward, so definitely have to reevaluate that. Then one Progress Day for slower matchups. For the mirror match, like post Dreaming Tree, winning through card advantage actually is an option there, so Progress Day can help that, but didn't really use it this time, so have to keep seeing how the card performs. And then one Dr. Mundo. Like I said, this is one of the cards that Kaisa struggles the most, so this comes in there. Progress Day and Mundo might be a little much to side in that matchup. Time will tell. I felt like it was fine, because again, I'm missing a little bit of top end, just have a little bit more in the side deck, but I have to evaluate which one I like more. The big advantage of Progress Day over Mundo is that it's also really good in in other matchups like Aurora. If you get to 6 points and they start pushing their big threats, just try to refill one turn, maybe play a couple of minions to just set up something for next turn. Can help a lot, or finding like your side deck cards, Thermo Beams, whatever. Maybe Progress Day is the more versatile card, but Mundo in the mirror match is definitely more devastating. So pretty happy with the side deck. Right now wouldn't really change anything, unless like I expect more Aurora, like I said, or the main deck changes. Again, I could see something like putting the one smoke screen from the main deck into the side deck here as well, maybe for the Void Seeker, maybe for one of these. We'll have to see. But yeah, like I said, definitely looking forward to the second Time Warp. That feels pretty important. Yeah, to the second Catherine Rain, but also to the 2 Time Warps. Thing with the Time Warps is in this current tournament, they would not have been as good as they usually are, because Time Warp can be a little bit of an awkward card, but the reason people play it is because it's good in the difficult matchups. It's good in the mirror, it's good against Aurora and things like that. It can even against like Mundo decks, like Teemo is the first one coming to mind, that can even sometimes cheat you out a win there if they could only establish the one Mundo at one battlefield. You can take the other and use Time Warp hold for a point. It just makes certain games that are completely unwinnable winnable, which is pretty good. Although having such a big top end in what is typically a pretty tempo-oriented, relatively aggressive deck is obviously weird, and they do kind of conflict. Like, if you play a Watcher on a Cathian Rain, it becomes pretty unlikely that you can Time Warp that game. The thing is that usually whenever you play one of these cards, that's typically game winning. You tend to just win the game straight up, and if not, you just might on the following turn without another one of the big drops, or like the 7 drops do not necessarily conflict, but if you play one of the 7 drops, just the Time Warp becomes unlikely. But again, just playing either of those usually wins you the game. You just want to see them consistently, and seeing them early on is not that bad, because like you just draw so many cards that oftentimes it's fine. Quickly going over the mulligan, usually I'm not going into the specific matchups, but usually you are looking for your first 2-drop is your highest priority. Just have something to put on pressure early on, because conquering early again is really important. You want to get to 6 points as quickly as possible. When going second, it can obviously also be the lecturing yodel, which is good as well. And then after that, it becomes a little bit more complicated. Just additional 2-drops for your second turn are still really good, but on Dreaming Tree you might even be tempted to keeping something like Cleave or Retreat, but Stupefy there is really good. Unless you do not have a unit at all, you would keep as many copies of Stupefy as you can. It's just that good on Dreaming Tree. Later on, when you're off of Dreaming Tree, you usually don't keep it anymore. And then other good cards are Falling Stars in most matchups, Noxus Hopefuls if you already have your units, and then if you already have a really crazy hand, you might even keep something like Darius or Watcher, like I said, particularly in slower matchups. If you already have like good turn 1, maybe even turn 2 plays, keeping 1 Watcher is definitely something to think about. Looking to integrate like the top end, the cards I'm thinking about cutting are like something like this. I have to cut 3 cards. Probably it will be 3 of these 4. I'm very sure. I might also want to fit in another Retreat, because that card for game 1 is just really strong, and I felt myself often wanting to see it a little bit more. So we'll have to see, but I'm just not sure whether I'm fine cutting the 2-drops to 7. I actually really like the 9, so I would like to stay at 2, but so I would like to stay at least at 8, but we'll have to see. The list definitely becomes a little bit tight with all these things, although like I said, for the current locals, maybe I might just be inclined to put the Time Warps into the side deck. We'll have to see. So those were my ramblings on Kaisa, also covering like the basics of the game plan. If you're interested in more in-depth stuff on a Kaisa guide, write me in the comments. I'd definitely be excited to do that. And yeah, like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I just hope you're enjoying Riftbound as much as I am. See you later, signing out. Peace.